Hey, what's up? It's Mike Gobby with Mike Gobby's Headbangers, and on the line, bass player extraordinaire, and he's from Sweden, yeah. It's Marten Andersson.
How you doing, brother? Good talking to you, man.
Every time I think of Sweden, I think of that. You know what movie I'm referencing, right? Yeah, from Sweden.
No.
Jamie Lee Curtis in Trading Places.
Oh, okay.
Remember at the very end, she's dressed as a German, but pretending to be from Sweden.
That's right. I thought maybe it was some kinky porn or something you were referring to.
Whoa, Marten. Not yet. We'll get to that. We've got to warm up.
It's good talking to you, brother.
Yeah, dude. We were just talking prior to this about how we've never really done an interview before, and we've known each other. All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but we first met when you were with Lynch in Chicago House of Blues. What year was that? With Shanker and Enough's Enough. Man.
I would like to say maybe 2003. Was that on the Shanker run, or was that on the Ingve run, or Shanker maybe? Yeah, Shanker. Yeah, we did 3 nights. I remember that. We did like 3 nights in Chicago, I think. It was Lynch and Shanker. Yeah, I would say maybe 2001, potentially, 2003.
I'm thinking 3 or 4, but anyway, it's been a long time.
3, yeah, you might be right. 3 or 4. Yeah, it's been a long time, man. Just, I can't believe I actually been on your show all this time.
Well, you know, good things come to those who wait, I guess. I've just been saving up for you.
The day.
I've been saving up for you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, let's just.
Either way, it's good to be here, man.
Good. Let's blast out what's going on with Steelheart, and then we'll kind of go backwards into your career to where it all started. So
cool.
as of right now, well, first and foremost, hey, how is your back doing? You had that major back surgery.
Yeah, man, I've been having back issues for quite some time, for years, and finally I went ahead and did the surgery, and I'm recovering. It's been a slow process, and now with this horrible virus going on and everything, I'm actually getting a little bit more time, and I'm doing my PT exercises, and I'm out walking every day, and so, I'm doing, a million times better. I mean, people might not even know this, but prior to this, I couldn't even walk 20 feet, prior to the operation. At the airport, I had to get, like, in a wheelchair and stuff to get to the gate, and, anyway, long story, and now I'm out walking, in an hour or 2 a day or whatever, so it's all going the right direction. So, thanks for asking, man.
Do you have a physical therapist or a physical terrorist?
Well, right now it's all by phone anyway. Whatever you want, whichever you want to pick.
So
but,
it's verbal. It's verbal. Oh my God! Now I just lost my word. Verbal commands and such, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a weird thing because
verbal motivation. Motivation. That's it.
Yeah, right. I mean, she'll send me like. The exercises, and then she'll go over it, and she's like, okay, do you have it in front of you? And I go, yes, I do. And she goes, okay, put me on speaker, and get on all fours, and
oh my God,
stretch out your back leg, and it's kind of hilarious.
So this is the porn part. This is the porn part you spoke of. Wait a minute.
And I'm from Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm doing all the PT. I'm going to run right past that and move on that subject for right now. But yeah, no, it's all good, man. So it's just I'm doing all the PT stuff, and I'm slowly working. It's been a tough process, man. I just back problems are not fun, and the recovery of back surgery is not fun. Let me tell you that. So anyway, but compared to what's going on in the world right now, it's pretty minor stuff,
Well, I don't know, dude. My mom, we talked about that. She had major back surgery, and, she kind of got to it a little bit late where she had some nerve damage and stuff. Another buddy of mine, Brett Kaiser, singer for Madam X, just recently had, I think it's been a year or so. Anyway, he's doing really good. So hopefully you'll have full recovery. I would hate to experience it because just when I've strained my back or whatever, you get that pain, and it hurts, and it is hard to move around. So what you've gone through, man, I'm glad you're doing better.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because it's like you move your arm or you move every little thing that you do in life. You don't realize that you go, oh my God, that really effing hurt. You know what I mean? Like it's just like every little single thing you do. It's just, it's, anyway. So, but it's all good. So we're going in the positive direction here. So.
Well, it was a major bummer that you weren't able to be on the Monsters of Rock cruise number 10, the X as we were calling it. But Steelheart was on there. And, you know what was cool is I ran into Millie. How does he actually say
Millie,
it?
yeah. Millie. I just call him Millie, yeah.
Yeah. I've known him forever, but yeah, I can't even say his name right. So anyway, I ran into him the first night, talked to him a little bit, got up to date and stuff. And then what was really cool was Mike, your drummer, came up and he's like, Mike? I'm like, hey. And he didn't think I recognized him, but I did. It took a second, but I did recognize him. I just thought that was really cool. He came up when we were kind of talking.
He's such a sweet guy, man. Mike is a really, he's one of those honest, just down-to-earth, really nice guys. And he, I mean, an amazing drummer, too. He's right in the pocket and just so much fun playing with him because, you know, he's definitely bringing up my level of playing as well. But he's just such a gentleman. So, and you got to respect that. Such a kind man.
Yeah, super nice guy. And, of course, we talked about, you know, we were lamenting the fact that you weren't there, but the fact that Steelheart was still able to go on and perform with, let's mention the bass player that did take your place.
Yeah, it was Kevin Chown that filled in for me. Great guy, and we have some Swedish history together and stuff. And he's been on some reality shows in Sweden and stuff. And great
no
bass
kidding.
player. You know, yeah. Like they did you know, one of those things where they would go. They found Americans that had Swedish, you know, backgrounds and this and this and this, and they put them in a reality show and put them all through, kind of like an Amazing Race kind of thing. And he was on one of those, and you know, he's very involved in Sweden and sort of became a celebrity over there, I guess, in some ways. Not even for his bass playing, which he played with everybody in the world anyway. So, and he was very cordial to, you know, very helpful filling in for me at the show. And I'm bumming. I missed the cruise and.
Yeah.
And it just, you know, I was on one of the first cruises they did back with the Lizzy Borden days, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I remember a funny thing because it was one of the first ones, and I guess they hadn't considered everything that was going on and what kind of people, you know, these rockers were, because at 5 o'clock the day of departure, they had ran out of beer, so they had to delay the departure of the boat. This is one of the first cruises. To get more beer brought in, and basically at 5 o'clock they had sold out at more than they usually do on the entire cruise of normal quote-unquote people. So that's my first memory of doing one of those crazy cruises.
Well, all right, first and foremost, instead of the Amazing Race, you guys would be the Amazing Bass, right?
Yeah.
And then as far as
you said it, I didn't. But
as far as the first cruises, I was on the original. I'm an OG Morker, so I was on the first one and the second one. And I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember actually experiencing it because I don't think I was drinking beer back then. It was all mixed drinks and stuff, but I honestly don't remember that.
I think it was another. It wasn't the specific cruise that was on this time. It was one of the other ones, 80,000 tons or one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was like one of the these type of where they would bring hard rock band, 100 rock bands, and you know, God knows how many fans on a civilized cruise ship, you know. You know, that's just kind of unheard of at that point, you know.
Yeah, but that's not very good forward thinking of the cruise coordinators thinking, all right, we got a bunch of hard rockers. Are they going to drink very much? Yes.
Yeah, right. I think before that, they probably just had, like, you know, old people's cruises or swingers cruises or something, you know what I mean? Those kind of things, but, you know, not like these rocker cruises. So.
Wait, they have swingers cruises?
They do have
Marten,
cruises.
Let's go.
Not that I know about that, but I've heard about them.
Okay.
And trust me, if I had been on one of those, I would tell you, but I have not. So.
You'd be showing videos.
Well, maybe not that far.
It's like, bro, yeah, check your check
I would be
drop.
proud of it going in. Hell yeah, I was on the swingers cruise. Anyway.
You'd be, bro, check your drop box. Brother? Check your drop box. I got something for you.
This interview just going off the rails right now, but it's
Oh,
awesome.
dude, I always
loving
go
it.
sideways. I always go sideways.
It's a Corona interview. We're all going crazy because we're all,
Oh my God.
isolated in little cells,
Well, at least we're practicing the social distancing, right?
That's right.
We're far enough apart, right?
What state are you in? You're
I'm in Arizona.
right?
Where are you? Are you in Cali? You're in Cali, right?
Cali. I'm in Cali
Okay.
right now. Yeah, I would say that's a distance enough.
Yeah. All right, so let's get back to Steelheart then. What is like in the makes as far as a new album, or what's the status of Steelheart right now?
Well, we're definitely doing a lot of shows, and we did, we just released, but it's about 6 months ago, My Dirty Girl is a live version from Korea and Japan and stuff, with some cool stuff. That's off the new record as well. And they're sort of still promoting that, but Millie's constantly, working on new stuff, and it's a little bit difficult to get together because this band is actually spread out pretty wide, and thank God for the internet, like you mentioned. But it's I'm Millie and I are in L.A., California, obviously, and Mike, the drummer, he's in Philly, and Joe, the guitar player, he's in Boston. So we're kind of all over the place. But we definitely have a lot of shows coming up, and there's definitely new material that's being worked on, and we'll see what that ends up being. I know there's maybe taking the route of doing singles instead of doing full-length albums or something like that, or there's a lot of discussions that's being brought up and how to do it, and because it does take a lot of work, and people don't realize that, to do a record and rehearse it and record it and everything else. So just maybe do baby steps and do singles or something like that. We'll see what happens, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it, and we have a blast playing live, and just hopefully all this crap will get over with, and everybody gets sort of back to their normal life and see some smiling faces out there,
So what are your thoughts on the whole record-making process now? Would you guys, if you had to, you could each individually record your parts wherever you're at,
Absolutely.
and then mix it all together.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you rather be as live as possible in the recording process?
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on
that? Yeah. I missed that part, and I missed that we just go in, and we did the Lizzy Borden Appointment with Death record. We did it that way, and we went in, and we all co-wrote the songs. I think I co-wrote, say that 10 times fast. Co-wrote like 6 songs out of the 10, 11 songs with those guys, and we just went in and we just rehearsed and changed things around, and we really took our time, and it's just so much fun, and I just kind of missed that process a little bit, but it is the way it is now these days with Pro Tools, and everybody recording separately, and this and that, but hopefully at some point we can get back to that part a little bit where you just lock yourself in the rehearsal studio. Look at some of those great albums, the first Van Halen record, first Mr. Big record, all those stuff that's pretty much recorded live, and it's just, you can feel it. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
And then what do you think about, first and foremost, are CDs still a viable product? Like, I personally like to have a tangible, I like to have the CD in my hand. I like to flip through the booklet. I like to look at the pictures and everything. But,
yeah, right.
Everybody's so digital these days. So what are your thoughts on that? Is it still worth it to put out a physical CD?
I love it. I'm right there with you, and it's a sort of a process. You're a bit older like me, and we go back to the record days where you just listen to it and you go through every song, and there's a process of you go through every song, right, one after another, and you put it in a certain order, and you read the thank you notes, and you read all the lyrics on a record, and look at pictures and stuff, right? I'm probably dating myself saying all this, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a certain emotion, and you kind of sort of get that out of the CD still, right? But obviously there's more and more people who just put music on their phones, and even from producing a record, you're almost looking at different, because I don't know if you remember this, but you made a record before. You would record something and you would go check it out in your car. That's kind of how you did it, to see how it sounded in your car, and this and that, based on how is it going to sound on your phone or digitally on a digital device, which is kind of interesting. So it's a different process for sure.
Well, I guess the good news about the digital age is it's certainly cut down the costs of making a record substantially.
For sure. Substantially. I mean, some of those budgets that was back in the day was just crazy numbers,
Right.
It's just a crazy numbers.
Here's $100,000 advance, and then we're going to spend a couple more $100,000 on all the studio time and stuff. Like for instance, our buddy George, I read that for the first Lynch Mob record Max Norman was producing, I read somewhere he spent days just miking the drums.
Yeah, right.
Days, dude.
And maybe on some level, those guys were like lawyers at the time. Let's milk this out a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Get some more cash,
But Max Norman, dude, he's one of my favorite producers out there. I mean, pretty much everything he's touched sounds great.
Oh, yeah. Amazing stuff. Yeah, I just saw him NAMM show or whatever. He produced one of the Lizzy records, too. But, yeah, great producers. And obviously, that Wicked Sensation record, unbelievable. What I was going to say is, and I totally forgot what I was going to say. So, anyway, it's a different process. I do miss part of it. Oh, yeah, what I was going to say was that, in certain places, especially in Europe, CDs are still a big thing. And a lot of what they're doing, too, with the LP is sort of doing a comeback, which is great. I love it. The hardcore fans are doing the LPs, and a lot of times you get like a code to download the digital version as well. So if you buy the LP, you get the digital, you get like a little code, or you can download it. And, there's different ways of looking at it, which is, I like it, it's kind of a cool way. And, that maybe, hopefully that's the route that we're going a little bit more, that you can combine the two. It doesn't have to be either or,
And supposedly the cassette is making a comeback.
Really? I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. Which, it's funny. I've got a O2 Forerunner, and the stock stereo was a CD, cassette player, AM, FM radio, all in one console, right? But I actually like it because, dude, I can dig up these old cassettes I made, or I might have, something that's not available anywhere else, and I can still pop it in and listen to it in the car. Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, just shoot me if the 8-track is coming back. But hey,
8-tracks, baby, come on.
Yeah, right. That was before my time, but that's awesome. Yeah, that's great stuff.
Well, as far as age goes, how old are you now? Because I'm 51. You got to be.
I'm not going to tell you.
You're right around me, though, right?
You have to Wikipedia me on that one.
Yeah, but it might not be true. Fact or fiction? Wikipedia with Marten Andersson.
What is that? The quiz of the day?
Well, have you seen the Wikipedia Fact or Fiction? Loudwire does it, and they'll get an artist and they'll go through the Wikipedia info and find out what is actually true or not, because Wikipedia can be so far off base. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I have to check it out, man. Yeah. I haven't heard about it, so yeah.
All right.
I mean, we do have a lot of time right now to do all that stuff, right?
Yes.
I have this whole pile of books that I wanted to read, but all kinds of different subjects, and it's just a whole pile of them. And I'm just trying to, been recovering from this, and I was like, I'm going to read these books, but I just haven't had the mind frame of getting to it, unfortunately.
Well, your main focus right now is getting healthy again, right?
Yeah, it is for sure. But, if you think about it in this way, this time will hopefully never come again where where the whole economy shuts down and we're all at home for this amount of time, right? I mean, hopefully not. Doesn't happen again, right? So it would be a good time to do these kind of things, read or write music or whatever. But, and I hope people are out there. Unfortunately, I'm not as much as I should, but it's all good, man. We'll get there.
So you were born in Sweden. How much time of your life did you actually spend there before moving to the States?
I came here when I was 18.
Oh, wow. So you were there quite some time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I really didn't speak English until I came to the States, to be honest with you. But now, obviously, I've 28, 30, 40. Yeah, it's 30 years right now. I lived in the States.
Wow.
So I just dated myself right
Yes,
there.
you did.
So,
I just added it up.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I obviously lived in America for pretty much off and on for 30 years, and I love it. And I came here and I got the gig with Lizzy after. There's a bunch of stuff that happened before and after and stuff like that. But I got the gig with Lizzy when I was, I don't know, 19 or 20 or whatever it was, and never looked back.
Wow, I just lost my train of thought now. So what? Okay, well, let's do this. First, okay, I was going to say this. I do not detect any type of accent. If I were talking to you, I wouldn't figure you were foreign at all. Which is interesting because there's a lot of Swedish people that I've met that have kind of that guttural accent.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I don't know. I it comes out when I drink, I think.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Everybody's does.
Yeah, right.
Hey, I'm from New
people who
York.
don't even have an
Yo.
accent, even people who don't even have an accent, right? They come out, you get an accent when you drink, right?
All of a sudden, some weird accent manifests itself through alcohol.
Beer goggle accent. Right?
Oh my God! Let's not even go there. Oh boy. Reason number 29 why I quit drinking: beer goggles.
Yeah,
oh
right.
my God. So
what? 638. Yeah, go on.
What got you into bass? Why did you pick bass as your instrument?
I actually started with guitar, and then I saw like Gene Simmons and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, I want to play. And at the time, we had the singer that played in my first band. I was like 12, right? We knew like one song, right? But we had two or three guitar players in the band. The singer played guitar, and I had a guitar player, and I was like, do you know how to play bass? And I go, oh, I think so. And then I started getting into, Gene Simmons. I saw something with Kiss, and that's when I got into Kiss too, obviously. And I saw him going, it was one of those parts where he flew up in the air, or he spitting blood, or one of those things. And I go, that is so freaking awesome. That's what I want to do, right? So that got me into bass, and then I started listening to like Michael Schenker and bands like that, and Chris Glenn, which was the bass player for Schenker for a long, long time. He was I thought was a great player, and I started listening to that, and UFO, and Pete Way, and a bunch of those guys, and then of course branching into other guys like Billy Sheehan and stuff like that. But and I go, man, this instrument's so much more than just doing what a lot of guys are doing out there. If you combine the sort of the Chris Glenn, Gene Simmons with the Billy Sheehan type stuff, and you can create something really cool and original, not just for other people, but something that makes it fun for myself,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the first time I ever saw you play and you did a solo, I was like, holy crap.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I try to, I have, do a lot of the classical stuff. I really enjoy the classical part of it, and that's why I created this From Classical to Rock sort of charity that we have, and we can talk about that later if you want. But it's just, I really enjoy, I grew up with like the Ingves, that kind of music, and on some level too, and it was really fascinating from a musician standpoint because it really pushes your boundaries, other than just playing three chords types music, which is fun and great too. Don't get me wrong, but just fun stuff to do on the side,
So, as far as 4-string bass, 5-string, 6-string, 7-string, 8-string, what are your thoughts on all that?
Well, it's kind of fun. I'm mostly a 4-string kind of guy. I'm the old-fashioned. It's been, you've been able to do what you want to do, what I'm doing, and what most of us do in this type of, environment as far as the rock music. It's been fine with 4 strings. I mean, Billy Sheehan still plays a 4-string. Chris Glenn plays a 4-string. All those guys that I looked up to, they're all playing 4 strings. I'm like, if those guys are doing it, that's great. But what I got into a lot. Tom Peterson plays his 12 strings. And, Doug Pennick from King's X, he does, 12 strings too. And I was like, I'm going to find my own little niche here. So I did for a long time with Lizzy. And even with Lynch, I played lot of the 8-string, and this might get a little nerdy for you, but what I would do is I would have one straight signal going in with just straight bass signal, and then I would do one with sort of distortion on it. And just for fun, I just started enjoying being nerdy on this subject, and I just started cranking up the distortion. I would mix them together, and it would almost sound like you still had that bottom end, but you had the distortion, so it almost starts sounding like a guitar. You know, especially with Lynch, you're backing him up, and you want to make sure it's a nice wall behind him, and that's when I get into the 8-string a lot too. So, but it ultimately comes down to the situation, what kind of music you're doing, you know. And then people go, "Hey, I want some 5-string stuff there." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I have this EBS makes EBS is a pedal maker. They make this great pedal, and it's an octave pedal, and it's really it responds really well to that. So if there's a specific song that needs to be either I tune down on a different bass, or I use the octave pedal to get that lower sound to it. So there's different ways to achieve whatever you want, you know, to produce.
Well, I actually like the idea of you splitting the signal. You got to clean and then the distorted, and you kind of mix it together to your liking. That could actually, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, right. Actually, you know, well, Billy's been doing that for years. But you know, I even saw Lynch on one of the tours that we did with him. He had a clean, like a little Fender amp kind of thing. He had a clean guitar, just straight in, and then he had his normal distortion. But when he would pick in the background, he would have that clean guitar Fender sound as well. And, you know, he would rock out, but he would still have a clean sort of guitar in the background, and it almost got a second guitar player there, you know.
Well, with Lynch, good Lord, that guy is always switching up his gear and, you know, his cabinets and this and that, and it's always, you know, you know what I'm talking about. You played with the guy.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, he used to drag me to, you know, whatever city we were in, he would always drag me to all these guitar shops everywhere, and you know, I had fun, of course, checking out the basses and everything else, and but you know, it's just he would drag me to those things, and you know, he's like one of those guys that, I mean, he's such a tech nerd, obviously, but he's also, you know, he constantly keeps looking for that holy grail of sound, right? And it's just, he's just one of those guys. I think in my older age here, as we go, you know, I'm pretty, you know, constantly I check out stuff, but I'm pretty content with what I'm doing. You know, the amps that I'm using and so forth. So it's just, but you know, he definitely likes doing that. That's for sure. I mean, I don't know if you follow his Facebook. I'm sure you are, but you know, the guy has like 40,000 amps, and he's just constantly buying and selling and doing all this stuff. So it's just, he's definitely special in that way.
That's funny. You say every city he'd drag you to a music store. He always, every time he came to Arizona, he'd want to go to the gym. So we'd go work out, and he would always hit it pretty hard, and I didn't understand how he could play all pumped up, you know? It's like, if, you know,
yeah.
Not that I'm a super guitar player or anything, but dude, if my forearms are all pumped up and stuff, my fingers ain't moving.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't know either. It's, you know, when I played with him, you know, I think I did 6 or 7 years total from the beginning to, you know, the end with him, and he wasn't, you know, he went through a period where he was just, you know, he was buff, right? He was really, really big, and
yeah.
Of course he would still, you know, he had just met Danica when I started playing with him, and even the first tour, I think, and you know, so he was super in love, and you know, just on a complete high, you know, which we had so much fun, but he wasn't like, you know, in the gym, you know, 10 hours a day and stuff. But yes, you are right. It would be the gym, or it would be a guitar shop, or, you know, stuff like that, you know.
So you moved to the States when you're 18, and you talked about earlier Lizzy Borden. So Lizzy Borden was your first professional gig, right?
It was, yeah.
And that happened just a couple years after you moved here. So how did that come about?
Let
me preface that. Lizzy Borden's been around since, like, what, 83 at least? Because I remember when Give 'Em the Axe, the EP came out, I bought that on vinyl. And I had a Lizzy Borden Give 'Em the Axe t-shirt from back in the day, because I think I was part of their fan club. Yep.
Yeah, I do have to say that about the Lizzy Borden fans. You know, they were pretty hardcore people. I mean, just the hardcore fans was amazing, and the Steelheart fans are too as well. But what I was going to say is, I went to Musicians Institute to get the visa and stuff to come to the States, and probably wasn't the best student, but I had a lot of fun, and then I started dating this girl. Her name was Kim Nelson. She played in a female in a shredding band. It was called Phantom Blue. I don't know if you remember those guys.
Oh, absolutely. Michelle Meldrum.
Michelle. Yeah, she was a dear friend of mine, and rest in peace, Michelle. But so I started dating Kim, the bass player, and they did a shred record. Marty Friedman produced it on Shrapnel Records, and then they went on and then with Geffen. I think they signed to Geffen after that. Anyway, so she had done some. She knew Lizzy and Joey, the drummer, and she had done the studio work with them, and they were looking for a bass player for a tour. And I remember, she goes, "Hey, I know the Swedish guy. He just came off the boat, but he's a cute guy, and he plays bass pretty great, And they're like, "Okay, cool, bring him down." And so, I went down there and I did a couple auditions, and I got the gig. And then 2 weeks later, I was on the road. So I told this story many times. Like, I had to call my mom and say, "Hey, I'm not coming home for a while."
Got a name drop here. Another current playing artist, and I didn't know this until a couple of years ago, that current drummer for the Iron Maidens, Linda McDonald, was in Phantom Blue as well. That
is very correct. Yeah, I love those. They're all like really good people, and they were crazy, man. You got to remember, think of me as this 18-year-old Swedish guy that looked like Joey Tempest, but was extremely shy. Just I had the curly hair and a perm and all this stuff, right? And those guys, they were just freaking crazy. I mean, they partied. Michelle and Linda and Gigi, the singer, and everything. They were just freaking partying. Like, they were burping, and they were like sailors, right? And they were just drinking constantly, and this, and I'm like, holy crap, I was like in shock, right? But they were awesome people, and I still run into them every now and then, and they're all good people still, and they're still very active. I mean, I just ran into Linda a while back. Our Maidens are doing great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Lizzy Borden was on the Monsters of Rock cruise, and God, I got to tell you, man, that band that they've put together with the young guys they're freaking amazing, dude. I mean, if anybody could carry the torch, those guys are doing it.
Yeah,
I mean, much energy and just stage presence and musicianship. It was great. I thought, I can honestly say that I didn't think any of the bands sucked on the cruise. There were some that just not my cup of tea, but all the performance-wise, were great. But I would put Lizzy up there at the top. One of them, for sure.
Yeah, I hear it's a great band they put together, and I wish them all the best. It's just he gave me an opportunity at started me out in the business, and I feel grateful for that, and I'll always be grateful for that. And I hope that they're doing great.
And even back in the day, I think the first time I saw you, and this was before, or wait, no, oh God, now my memory's getting foggy. You were still in Lizzy when you were doing Lynch, right? You were.
Well, we were sort of on a break for, I was kind of going in and out between the two bands, to be honest with you, and Lizzy was doing the Starwood stuff, and, with me, of course, too, and stuff, so it was like 2 or 3 different bands going on at that point, and then, Lynch was, doing everything he was doing. He was doing Lynch Pilsen and all kinds of stuff, right. And then, his Souls of We he did, and stuff like that, and so there was just a lot of stuff going on at that point, which is great. I mean, I've never been that busy in my life. I mean, there was a couple of shows where, we Starwood opened for George, and I was on that stage for, 2.5, 3 hours that night,
Well,
so I couldn't do that now, but I had a lot of fun doing it then.
Well, the show I'm thinking of, and this is because I believe it was after we met, we knew each other. Then you came to Scottsdale, Arizona with Lizzy and with Wasp, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Place called
Lizzy Mob,
Venue of
yeah.
Scottsdale, or back then it was probably the Cajun House, but I believe that was when Ira Black was with you.
Yep.
I think. And well, anyway, let's just put it this way: Lizzy's always had a really killer band, so I didn't want to take anything away from the past with the present. You know what I'm saying? But I've always enjoyed them. They always put on a great show, and it was that was an interesting show, the one I was just talking about, because that's the show where Blackie Lawless kicked the security guard in the back.
Oh,
If you
okay. I don't remember that, but yeah.
And he went to court,
Okay.
and he won, and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember that, but yeah, I mean, it's just guys are pretty crazy out there. Yeah, I mean, Lizzy always had a good neck for finding guitar players. I mean, even though not to take credit from anything else, but he had Joe Holmes, who ended up playing with Dave Lee Roth and
Ozzy.
God, Ozzy, yeah, right. Sorry, yeah, and he was great there. And I found Ira for the band actually, and I also found Dario Lorena. Ended up now he's in the Black Label Society, but
yep.
He was with us for a long time too. So, but Lizzy always had great guitar players in the band, that's for sure.
How about that Chris Sanders feller?
He did like a run with us, I think.
Yeah.
He had a falling out with Lizzy at one point, I remember.
Well, he was just recently in Rat, and he is no longer in Rat, and I'm not exactly sure the whole story there, other than he told me he was ready to retire, because he ended up getting married and started dealing guns and stuff, dude. Here in Arizona.
Really? Yeah, I remember he was always into that stuff when for the one tour or whatever he did with us and with Lizzy at the time, and he's an interesting guy. I mean, it's just it's always interesting to see all these guys. You put them together in the band, and I always say that it's like you're together with this person for 23 hours out of the day, most likely, and it's just so important that you got to sort of be, unless you're Rolling Stones for you're all flying separate jets and this and this and that, you're going to be on each other's, there's no freaking social distancing in there, right? Usually in a tour bus, right? So you got to really make sure that you get along with people, and I wish Chris the best. I mean, I don't know what he's up to. I haven't talked to him in probably 15 years or something like that, but 10 years or I saw him I said hi to him at the NAMM show maybe 10 years ago or something. But yeah, I don't know what happened to him. I know he got the Rat gig, and I was like, oh, good for him, And then I saw that he announced on your show that he doesn't do the Rat gig anymore.
Right, yeah.
So just wish him the best.
Every now and then I get to break some news. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's all good, man. You deserve it. You've been around long enough.
Well, thank you, sir. Ira Black, he's an interesting character. You said you helped him get the gig, so you must know him pretty well. I've got a specific question for you. Remember the NAMM jam he did with George? It was George Lynch, Don Dokken, and weren't you up there?
Yes. Yes. I didn't help him. I had heard of Ira at the time, and I know that we had talked about in the band that we wanted to go a little bit heavier, and he's sort of the at the time it was a dime bag kind of a attitude to him as far as his playing, very hard, and great shredder too. But yeah, I got his number and I called him up and I brought him in to play with us. Turned out he was a big Lizzy fan and all that stuff, and yeah, I think he also had given him the axe, the EP and stuff like that. So he I know exactly what you're talking about. This is what happened this last year, I believe. We were supposed to do the NAMM Jam, which is basically a bunch of musicians. We go up. They do it every year at NAMM, and they do it every Mondays, Tuesdays at the Whiskey in Hollywood. And they just basically, you get a song assigned to you, and you go, okay, and you really don't know who's going to be up there with you. These are at the Whiskey normally. And then they do it at the NAMM show every year now. And it was scheduled to be Ira Black, myself, Don Dokken, and Phil Verone on drums. And last minute, George got added. I'm not sure how that came about. And I know what you're talking about, because what happened is that Ira ended up playing the lead and with George, and they both played the same lead. And,
right.
and I think Ira probably spent a lot of time, because Ira had actually played, he had done some shows with Don Dokken filling in for John.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, he actually sat down and actually learned George's solos to, as good as anybody can learn George's solos. They're not easy solos, But anyway, so George's style is very unique. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm not really sure if they even discussed the fact that. But knowing Ira, I don't even think that he actually ever learned the rhythm part. Because that's me. That's just me knowing Ira, that he doesn't. Because he always played the solos with Don. When he did the shows with Don, and I don't think he learned the rhythm, and I don't even think they discussed. George probably took it for granted, but anyway, I'm not going to get in the middle of that. But the funny part is that Ira and George, as far as I know, always been friends, and they're friends, and every time you go to George's house at his parties and Christmas, Lynch's Christmas parties, and Ira's always there and jamming and doing all the stuff. So I really don't know exactly what happened, other than there was some controversy. And I would tell you if I knew, but I really don't. So
well, I got George's.
Maybe you can explain it better to your listeners on what exactly happened.
Well, we'll just say go to YouTube and punch in Kiss of Death Nam or something like that.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, the video's out there, and I had actually personally asked George about that. Well, we did an interview and we talked about it, and I was like, "Do you think he was just, kind of caught up in the moment, or was he just being a dick?" And,
yeah, I don't know.
I'll have to get that clip and send it to you. His answer, because I don't want to misspeak and not remember exactly what he said. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's
one of those. Yeah, I am not really sure what happened, and I'm good friends with both those guys, and I was there, but I was never in any conversation. So what
it's all your fault. You planned it. Come on.
Yeah. I would take my responsibility if I knew, but I don't. So
the Swedish mastermind.
Yeah, right. It's all manipulation, right?
Exactly, man. I know how you Swedes are.
It's fun stuff, man.
So after Lizzy, what did you end up doing?
Well, that's a good question. It just seems like it's sort of intertwined, the whole, it's a tricky situation, because in 92, we all know that sort of the grunge, 94, kind of the grunge start taking over and stuff. I wrote some books about how to get record deals and stuff like that, and I did a little solo project and things like that, and then, everything sort of started up again. But, it just seemed like it's been between, a big part of those years, for a good 6, 7, 8 years, it was just Lynch, Starwood, and Lizzy Borden, and it's good times.
So, what about Yngwie?
I never played with Yngwie, actually.
You never did? I thought. Oh my God!
No.
All right, now Mr. DJ here just put his foot in his mouth.
No. It's all good, actually. I mean, I got multiple calls from him. His management, I should say, at the time, were representatives out of his camp that said, "Hey, because I know Yngwie, and I just felt like, I grew up with this guy as a hero, and not hero is a strong word, but as an influence, and this and that, and we did a couple of tours with him, both with Lynch and with Lizzy, with Yngwie, and I just and I'm really, really good friends with some of his old band members, and I just said, you know what, it would be a fun thing to do, but at the same time, I don't think this would be the right thing for me from a happiness standpoint. As far as I like a little bit of freedom, and it's hard because he's based in Florida too, and it's just like I don't know if I like the idea of getting a call and says, hey, I need you in the studio tonight or tomorrow. Can you here's your flight, here's your ticket, So I just having that just seemed little far-fetched for me and the way I wanted to live my life. So I never said yes to that.
Well, I'm glad I at least got the correlation somewhat correct.
Oh yeah. I mean, we did some runs with them, that's for sure, both with Lynch and.
Well, I do remember that because you guys came to the Rialto Theater in Tucson, and that's why I was still living up in Arizona. You guys played the same place that you played with Lizzy Borden. It was either the Venue or Scottsdale or Cajun House at the time, I don't remember, and then the Rialto Theater down here in Tucson. And the one thing I remember about that, he's no longer, he passed, but Gunji or Yngwie's tour manager.
Yes.
You guys were like pranking each other, and there was something about a sex doll that ended up on the front of a bus or something. Am I?
Yeah, there was, Yngwie and his camp had a certain way of running things, and I remember there was a little friendly competition between it, and I remember that someone had put, because Gunji was the guy that sort of took out, and I'm not going to speak ill of the death, but he was the guy that was sort of, you would never see Yngwie take out his thoughts. It was all going through the management or the tour manager, which was Gunji at the time, and about using the full sound system and the full lights and stuff like that. And there was a lot of the sort of, your merch table was too close to the stage, or you can't sell merch during the show, and There was a lot of those kind of, something I was never involved with, of course, but just it was an interesting part of how to run the business and the view from his point of view versus what we were going. But yeah, there was a lot of pranks, and I remember someone put a sex doll on the tour bus or something like that, and wrote Gunji on it or something like that, or I can't remember exactly, but it was just
Yeah, we both remember sex doll. We both remember sex doll, and that's it.
Yeah, a lot of Jaeger and a lot of those days, and
oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was some crazy stuff, I should write a book about that stuff sometimes, before I forget all that stuff, right? Because there's a lot of fun stuff.
What's the craziest thing that ever happened being out with Lynch?
Oh, God.
That you can speak of.
I don't know if, I don't know if it was that any kind of a crazy stuff like that going on, but, I don't know. But there's been a lot of fun stuff over the years with Lizzy, and I don't know if you remember the axe incidents. That was kind of crazy how we had played Bakken or something like that, and this is prior to 9/11 stuff, of course, but in Lizzy I put his bloody axe in the carry-on instead of the check-in baggage.
Oh,
and we're going like, yeah, we basically were going, I mean, weird stuff like that, crazy stuff. And he had put, we had done the show, and we had an hour or two at the hotel, just throwing shit in and just go, okay, let's go, And, he's putting the bag through security and as going in as a carry-on, and of course the thing beeps, and the woman opens the bag, and she takes up the axe, and it's just dripping in blood, right? Fake blood, but, and she's just looking at him going, what have you done? And within like 5 minutes, there was like 5 guys with machine guns taking Lizzy away,
Yeah, ultimately, what happened there? Obviously, he made it out, but how much of a delay?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is prior to 9/11, so it was, and then she's like, I'm a performer, and this and this and this, and I think he was like banned for Germany for a while. Don't come back for 2 years or something like that, or they escorted him, on the plane, and I remember us sitting on the plane going, holy hell, what the hell's going on? What do we do? It's like, I think the tour manager or something stayed around, make sure he's all right or whatever, yeah, I mean, there's been a few of those crazy things, but I mean, you got to love the Germans. This is Alex Nelson, the great guitar player, played with Lizzy for many years, and he passed, unfortunately. But I remember him. he's always had a beer in his hand. And I remember going through the German security after we had played Bakken, and he's going through security, and the guy's going, TSA guy over there in Germany, going, "Oh no, you can't bring that beer, through here." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he's open container drinking, and it's Germany, right? You can do this. So he hands the beer to the TSA guy. "Okay, here you go," and he hands it to him. And he goes through security, and I was right there with him. We were chatting, and all of a sudden, you hear someone, screaming for him, "Hey, you over there!" The guy goes, "Hey, you forgot your beer," and he gives it back to them, to Alex. So it's like, okay, you gotta love the Germans and their beer, It's like no wasting here, The TSA guy just ran after him and gave it to him personally. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Now
Anyway.
Now, reading your official website, you scored some music for commercials and TV. Do tell.
Yeah, just a little side stuff that I do to make a little cash on the side, do the cricket wireless thing, and we had some music on the ESPN hockey highlights and stuff like that. So it's just a cool thing to do, and it's a lot of fun. And anytime I think you can make music or make any kind of living making music, and maybe in this day they have everything going on right now, maybe that's something you should focus on a little bit more, trying to get some more placement stuff, which is it's a pretty cool thing.
Well, I think that's really cool, but the fact of the matter is, how many people out there actually knew it was you, though? They might hear something and have no idea, because where do you see the credit for, unless you post it up?
Yeah, right. And usually what happens, I'll tell you exactly how this works, is that they'll come to you and they say, "Hey, we want a Sweet Home Alabama," or "We want a Rob Zombie song," or something like that. But we basically they can't afford to pay for it, or it's they don't want to pay for it, and they say, "Can you create something that sounds very similar to that?" I mean, Lizzy and we did one of those too for, I forget who, it was one of the hockey teams. I can't remember. It could have been the Coyotes, actually, because it was through Schlegel at the time. And they wanted sort of a, pop song, kind of like that Rob Zombie song. What's that one called? What's that one called?
Dragula?
I'm talking about. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that one. Yeah, right. And, they used it in every single movie, for a while there, And I might have been the Coyotes that we did something for, and they wouldn't have a clue, of course. But we want a Sweet Home Alabama song, but we don't want it to sound too close to it, in that vein. And then usually what happens these days is they just buy you out. It's not like you get constant royalties for it. You just work for hire, basically, which is fine too,
So you mentioned Sweet Home Alabama. You made it Swede Home Alabama.
Yeah, right.
There's some comedy for you, Marten.
Oh, ba-da-boom.
That's right. Bass player giving me a rim shot. I see why you've been in
business this long. Your skills are just amazing. You should be comedy.
You flatter me, Marten. You flatter me. Anything that happens during this... We've already blamed it. We'll blame it again. Anything that happens during this interview is because of the COVID.
It totally is. This is all C19's fault right here, brother. Everything. Right. We're just going crazy, To tell you the truth, because I had my surgery, February sometime, whatever. And before all this happened, I have basically been inside for 5-6 weeks, just recovering, and because it takes a while. I mean, even just you get out of bed, and it's like a 3-hour process just to go to the bathroom and go get something to eat. So I was inside, just recuperating, trying to get better for maybe 4 or 5 weeks before this started, and then they hit with this. So I'm basically going on 9 or 10 weeks that I've been in isolation, in a house arrest at this point.
So
that's my excuse.
There you go. You already had the cabin fever.
Oh boy, yeah. We're going on 10 weeks here, baby.
What else can you tell me about your career, man? Because again, I just want to pick your brain rather than go through the whole, searching your website and stuff. I'd rather hear it right out of your mouth.
Well, one thing I do want to talk about is that it's something that I started in 2016. It's called From Classical to Rock. And I started it with Yutan, she's a famous Chinese violinist who played with freaking everybody in the business. I mean, she's on the score for the for the Harry Potter movies, and got John Williams and all this stuff, right? Amazing. And at the time, her husband, Stan Sharp, who's an amazing cellist, the same thing, L.A. Phil, all those amazing associations and thousands of soundtracks and play with Aerosmith and everybody you can think of, right? We had, I was friends with those two people, and we had heard that there was a need for that there was some schooling in the South Bay area that was lacking in music education, and basically had to be paid for by parents and stuff like that, because the budget for the school budgets, they had cut it was PE, and music education, a couple other things, and we're like, holy crap, we should just put our stuff together and do a concert and get them some cash, that could pay for a PE teacher or a music teacher for the year at least, or whatever. And so we start making some calls, and we got Robert DeLeo from Stone Temple Pilots involved, which ended up being a dear friend of mine after that. And we started putting all this thing. He was one of the producers. It was me, Yutan, and Stan, and then we got Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park involved as well, and he was one of the co-producers. And we all brought in, and we start brainstorming, and we start getting some cool people together, and that was sort of the we Stan and Yutan and I, we had already come up with a name for classical to rock, and then we kind of just kept going with that, and we did this first little concert and brought in $50,000 at the time after all the expenses and everything, and it was like, wow, what the hell, we're on to something here. And then we just kind of kept going. The year after, we had Nancy Wilson from Heart, and it's hosted by Randy Jackson and John Resnick, and we had all this cool players. So we were like, we're onto something here. And at that time, it was for a nonprofit school called OC Music and Dance, and they're basically a nonprofit school that don't charge students, low-income students and stuff for dance and music lessons and stuff like that. So we just kind of keep going, and now we're like, hey, we should make this into, we were actually scheduled to go to China in this June to do, and that was for profit. It wasn't a non-profit thing, but to do Shanghai and Beijing and stuff like that. And the 2018 concert, we had Millie on there as well, and a bunch of cool people, and he was scheduled to be on the China shows as well. So it's, of course, with everything going on, that got canceled or postponed temporarily, but it's a really, really cool thing. And what we do is we have student orchestras. We basically get, anything from fourth grade up to, there's some amazing kids out there. And we do student choirs, and so it's a full student orchestra together with rock musicians and stuff like that. And we started writing some original material now and everything else, and it's just it's a really cool thing, and it's just to see the kids and how excited they get about this, and also to contribute to some great causes, So it's a really good organization that we have, I think, and I'm very proud of it.
Well, that's very cool you did that. You're a rock and roll philanthropist.
It's more about just giving back a little bit after all these years. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like, to be honest. I know it's kind of those kind of pathetic little sayings. Oh, I just want to help other people. But, it's like, hey, I actually have a little bit of talent for something, a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. And that just, sort of together with these other amazing people, it's just, let's put something together and sort of just let other people have the little bit of what they might not have otherwise, as far as after school programs or music lessons or whatever it may be. And they going back to Sweden real quick, if I could just add this, they often say, what's the difference? How come there's so many NHL Swedish hockey players? Well, there's a freaking hockey rink in every corner in Sweden, and there's a lot, and they usually don't charge money for that kind of stuff. And I mean, just imagine how many Michael Jordans there are in Chicago that really never get the opportunity or whatever. I'm kind of sounds like a make you feel better book here, but that is the truth. It's just in my school I had 2 rehearsal rooms after school programs that were free to use. At my school growing up in Sweden, and I think we're lacking a little bit of that here.
Well, I think it's very commendable that you would do something like that, and there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's very commendable that you would give back. I like that. I like that a lot. And you talk about a very small bit of talent. I'll tell you right now, bro, you're one of the best damn bass players I've ever seen. So there you go.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I mean, people.
It's nice to hear because, I know how much work I put into it. So it's, it's like someone builds a killer house, and you build a killer house, and then someone go, "Hey, that's a really, really nice house." You go, "Well, thank you." That's because you really put blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I used to practice 8 hours a day for years and years and years, and it's big commitment to it. So I really, really, really appreciate that, brother. Thank you, man. It's
well, because
it's nice.
Up till I saw you live, I really wasn't familiar with your playing at all. And of course, live is certainly going to be different than on record for the most part, right? Especially when you get the spotlight for a little bit. And, when you were with Lynch, I mean, what a killer band you guys had, because, that was back, of course, Andrew Freeman on vocals. That's how we all knew who he was, really, right? Because now, singing with, good Lord, man, that guy has sang with my favorite guitar players. He sang with Vivian Campbell. He has sang with Doug Aldrich and George Lynch. It's like, dude, there's the trifecta of greatness,
Yeah, right.
And then to have Vinny Appice on drums, dude.
It's so weird because, and people go, well, what made you play with Lynch for all those years and stuff like that? And I always, wondered about that because there were so many different players, to be honest with you, during that era, right? I mean, on the first tour, we had, we had Chaz West on vocals. On the second tour, I think we had Kelly Keeling on vocals. The third, and on whatever, we had Andy Freeman, which was my roommate at the time, basically on the road, and so we were always gonna cheer that and be good friends because of it. A lot of mayhem and a lot of fun times, right? But the same thing with drummers. We had Mike Froh did the one. I think he was on the one that we met in Chicago, right? Mike Froh.
Yes, because Chaz was on vocals there.
Chaz was on vocals, yeah. And then we went on and we had Jeff Marten, which is a singer from Razor X, but he's also a great drummer, and he did a run with us,
right,
on vocals and on drums, and it was kind of.
Let me just tell you really quick. He being from Arizona, there's a band back in the day called Surgical Steel that he sang for, and this was before Racer X. And Rob Halford was a big fan of them, and this was before my time up in Phoenix, but Rob would come down and sing with them and hang out with them and stuff like that. And then, of course, let's not forget that Jeff also played drums on the second Badlands album.
Oh, yeah.
So multifaceted dude. He's an interesting character, man. I didn't really get to know him too well because he was kind of standoffish and kind of weird to me anyway. But that's funny you mentioned. Okay, Chaz. I totally forgotten about Chaz. So, yes, there was Chaz. And then, Kelly Keeling. I mean, George Lynch is like a freaking revolving door, and he admits it, of musicians. Yeah. I have met more musicians through him than all of my career in radio. Let me just tell you. And I've made a lot of good friendships.
And then we had Vinny do, he did one tour, and then we had Patrick Johansson did one tour with us too, with Yngwie's Wasp drummer. I don't know if you know, it's another Swedish guy, great drummer.
Yes, and but guess what? I was going to mention him, but I forgot. And I'm glad you brought him up because I ran into him at one of the pre-parties for Monsters of Rock down in Miami, Florida. I saw him, and I was like, where the hell do I know him from? Kind of gave him the guy nod, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I see him again at the end of the night, and I just went up to him like, dude, how do I know you? And what's funny was he wasn't real forthcoming about, I'm a drummer, He's like, well, I go, you do something in music, right? And he goes, well, yeah. And I had to kind of pick it out of him. And finally, I'm like, dude, I remember now. It was up in Phoenix. It was at the Brick House. It was downtown, blah, blah, blah. I knew exactly where it was that I saw him because I'm horrible with names, Mike. But I'm sorry, you're Marten, right? Kidding. but I'm good with faces. You know, I'm one of those guys that I'll forget a name for the most part, but I really don't forget a face. And so I made contact with him right there. We exchanged cards, and I'm actually going to call him up and do an interview with him. So I'm glad you brought him up.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he was very, very cool. And another guy that was there, what was his name? Jean or something. He was a bass player for Wendigo Williams at some point. He looked like a black dog the bounty hunter.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, my God, dude. He had this hair that I didn't know who he was. And I was like, dude, I got to get a picture with you. And I asked somebody else who he was, and they told me. So, yeah, I can't remember his damn name, but, yeah, dude, Patrick. I mean,
Patrick is a great guy.
You played.
Great guy. We were going to work on something together, and I've been tossing some ideas around at some point for doing some sort of bass solo record or something like that.
Do it.
You know, yeah. So it's just but yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, he played with Wasp, and you know, he was with Ingvar for 10 years, I think, and Terry and a bunch of those guys. You know, he plays, Gus G played with Gus, and you know, it's just one of those guys that just play with everybody. And he did a show with Steelheart too. He filled in for Mike on one of the shows. And, you know, he's just basically such a talented guy. He just came in, basically, and, you know, we just went through some stuff at sound check, and then we went for it, and he nailed it all, you know.
Well, yeah, and again, being such a super nice guy, no ego whatsoever, I thought that was refreshing. Given the talent he's played with, you know.
Yeah, right, yeah. So, yeah, and he did a run with Lynch as well and stuff, and...
Yep.
But, you know, a lot of people go, well, what made you so freaking special that you got to, you know, go on, be on all those Lynch tours while there was, you know, all these other drummers and singers and da-da-da-da. And I was like, you know what? You know, I was just being a down-to-earth kind of guy, you know, and I knew the songs. I was in tune. I can, you know, not being a headache to George at the time. You know, he doesn't want to have a singer who doesn't know the lyrics. He doesn't have a car, and you know, London. No, you know what I mean. But you know, it's just. But you know what I'm talking about. You know, it's just we want something that's responsible and show up on time, and you know. So, and that's all I try to do. Was I the best bass player in the world for George? Probably, maybe not. I don't know, but probably not. But you know, that in hindsight, it comes back to that you're with someone 23 hours a day. You want someone that's easygoing, someone that shows up on time and responsible sort of guy and knows the songs, right?
Well,
that's huge.
I've never known you to be irresponsible. Like, oh, God, frickin' Marten did this or that. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, okay, Kelly, he was a train wreck. Kelly Keeling. Let's be honest here. I mean, I won't get into too much detail, but dude, I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, but me and some other guys, we kind of followed you guys around California. We did the Arizona shows, and then we drove out to California, did a couple of shows out there. We hit Magic Mountain while we were out there. And at one of those shows, Kelly comes out, he's got his sunglasses on, takes a step up, holds his hands up at the front of the stage, takes one more step, and boom, went right off the stage. Remember? And he messed up his ankle.
Yeah, I think he actually broke his ankle.
He did something bad.
No, those, you know, I think maybe, you know, he was going through some issues at the time, and there was definitely some stuff. I mean, I remember, you know, I love Kelly dearly, but yeah, I remember there's a couple times where he would disappear, and we had to send a tour manager out trying to find him, and found him somewhere, you know, club somewhere or something, and you know, stuff like that, and the whole bus is waiting, you know. And that's not how you keep a gig, you know?
Right. And then, you know, you'll probably, let's see. Pretty sure the first time I ever met Chaz was at that Chicago show when I met you. I may have met him before. I can't remember for sure. But the one thing that me and some other friends, because like, remember Janet? And there was a bunch of these Lynch. Yeah. Back when MySpace was around and we had message boards, there was a bunch of us on the Lynch message board that convened in Chicago for those shows, and it was really cool to meet these people, right? And Janet,
I remember it.
Janet was a friend of mine from Tucson, and there's Jay Palmer and Jim Campow and all these other people. I can't even name them all. Jen Rosenberg, she used to moderate the Lynch message board. We all convened out there, and that's when we met, and we all kind of agreed that Chaz is a lovable asshole once you add Jaeger. Am I right?
Chaz is an interesting guy, and I actually just did a song recently that I had Chaz co-wrote with me for something, and you know, it was fun getting in the studio with him and stuff, and he is definitely a singer. Let me just put it that way. But that's so awesome that you guys are all keeping in touch, and all those guys are so cool. I mean, Jen and Jay, of course, from England, and you know, he came out to Steelheart shows, and you know, another time I was in England, I actually went out and had dinner with the guy and stuff, and just what a great guy too. So all those Lynch guys, and they all, you know, you and everybody at that time treated me so well, and I will always appreciate that, man.
Yeah, that was a whirlwind, but a blast of a trip, man. It's freaking cold out there too, because it was in December.
Yeah,
and me being from Arizona.
Really, yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, I remember the one thing I remember about Chicago is that we were staying at the House of Blues Hotel, and it was really, really cool because you would take the elevator all the way down in the basement, and then you would go in this tunnel for like, it seemed like forever, right? But it's probably like 5-10 minute walk or whatever. We would walk underneath the street going from the hotel, and then we would show up in basically the dressing room at the House of Blues.
Yeah, I remember. The other thing I remember too is, again, Enough's Enough played, I think, one of the nights out of the two, and to get from one dressing room to another, you had to kind of walk through them. And I remember walking through Enough's Enough, and it was like a freaking marijuana den, a smoker's den. It was like, oh my God. I got a contact high just walking through.
That's funny stuff, though, man. That's some good memories right there, man. Yeah, I forgot a lot of that stuff, and I'm glad you're there to remind me.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, it's all starting to come back to me now. And I mean, there's some stuff we can't really mention, to be honest with you, but I remember,
yeah.
Oh boy, I probably shouldn't say it. I'll tell you off air one of the stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of partying going on, a lot of drama with a lot of people at the time, and I always try to stay away from that. I just wanted to do a great show and have some fun with my friends after. You know what I mean? Like that was always my agenda of stuff. You know, people go, "Oh, you're into drugs and all this stuff," and I'm like, "No, you know what? I just like having some beers and just having laughter after, you know." It's just like I didn't need to do drugs to get into it and stuff, you know. That was just me personally. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. That's not what I'm spilling about here, but it's just for me, you know. And it was just fun times then, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And again, like I said, I never heard any stories about you being irresponsible or a pain in the ass or anything like that. You knew what your job was. You did it really well, and you kept your head on straight. That I can honestly say about you. And yeah, you definitely, I remember Jaeger. You mentioned Jaeger before, and we just mentioned it with Chaz. I remember bottles of Jaeger being in the freaking dressing room. And oh, here's another guy to name drop, Justin. Remember we called him Justin Illusion, but Justin Manning was the guitar tech. Yeah. And he's like a mini Zakk Wylde, which is so funny because he's such a Zakk Wylde guy, Black Label Society. You being friends with Dario.
Dario, yeah.
Am I saying it right? God, I can't say anybody's name right.
Yeah.
But I just remember being...
You been hitting the Jaeger over there? What
copious, copious amounts of Jaeger, which if you recall, at George's 60th birthday party, me and some friends came out there for that. And if you remember, I gave him a Depends starter kit, a Depends for Men starter kit, and a big bottle of Jaeger. And you were out there. James Lomenzo showed up. Scott Coogan was out there. It was a good time.
Yeah, we did some good jamming that night too, so it was always fun. So that's good times. I kind of forgot about that too, and it's just So Scott's a great drummer too. I did some stuff with him too, and some charity concerts and stuff like that. And we always have fun. We played Wicked Sensation. I remember one night and stuff like that, and that was fun. Just a great drummer too. I know he got a sort of in and out with George a couple times even, didn't he? Correct me if I'm wrong, but...
He just recently played with him, actually. He replaced Jimmy Deanda after... Man, again, the revolving door of George. George will have a falling out with somebody, and then all of a sudden they're back again. I mean, look how many times with Oni, for gosh sake.
Right.
Jeez. Those two, though, I just hope they can keep on track with each other, because when they're together, and they know it, and we all know it, they're freaking magic, man. They're the best together.
Of
with
course.
songs, you know.
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, anytime you get the original guys to write that stuff and this and that, yeah, for sure. Yeah, great guys, and bands are like relationships too. You know what I mean? Sometimes,
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, man. I used to have this little saying, which is, see if I can remember it properly, but it's all about comes down to maturity as you get a little bit older. But it's basically, you walk away from a band situation. If your peace or your peace of mind and self-respect and your values and self-worth and all that stuff doesn't add up, then maybe that's not for you. So.
Well,
that's my take on it.
One thing is, as much as there's been the revolving door with George, he's always had killer players with him. And again, I've met so many cool people and become friends with them because of that. And mentioning Chaz West, I just had to throw this out there really quick. There was a recent release in the past year or so that he put out, Resurrection Kings. Dude, have you heard that record?
Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing record. Yeah.
Wasn't that badass?
Yeah.
No, was Craig Goldie on that? Was Craig Goldie guitar player on that? I can't remember.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Okay. And great record. Yeah. And I had Chas on, I believe, 3 of my From Classical to Rock concerts going back to 2016. I think there was one maybe that he wasn't involved with, but he's always been, he likes to party and this and that, but he definitely delivers on stage, and he is a great singer. So.
Oh my God! I just thought of something else that happened in Chicago. I don't remember which night it was, but he took his shirt off, and towards the end of the show, the end of your set, and he's up there, and he would turn around, his butt crack was hanging out of his leather pants.
That sounds about right.
I don't know if you remember that, but we're all just kind of laughing.
Into it at that point. He's probably 10 shots into a bottle at that point, So it's like
he was at the lovable asshole point of the show.
Yeah, right. I don't know. You stand for the lovable part. I'll let you stand for that part. But yeah, no, he's a great guy, and we had a lot of fun. And that's like I said, I'm still working with him on various projects, and like I said, he's been involved in the classical to rock stuff, and he's definitely a lead singer.
LSD, baby, LSD, lead singer's disease. Yeah. We know all about it.
That is for sure.
You just deal with it.
So that's you just got to know how to deal with people and personalities and any job, really,
Yeah, it's rough. It's got to be rough, especially when you were talking about earlier being on the road with somebody and you're with them like 23 hours a day. You're stuck in a metal tube with somebody and you don't really like them. Oh, boy, man. Like, I don't think I could do it, dude, because I'd probably blow up and start hitting things.
It's really hard, and especially when you're a little bit younger or whatever, you start, that's one thing because you maybe have a little bit more open mind about things, or you're just in general, you're just like, I'm in this situation because I really like overall, or you know what I mean, like, but you know how it goes. It could be even a crew guy that's just getting on your nerves, or talking politics or whatever it may be. It's like after a while, you get to a point where he's going, shut the hell up, man. So it's so important.
You probably did that with Jerry a lot, right, Gerard? I'm being facetious. He's another interesting character. He has been on and off George's tech for like 8 billion years, but he's an interesting fellow.
You people who don't know it, Jerry's he's been George's guitar tech for as long as I know. I remember, and he, off and on. There's a couple tours he didn't do, but a great guy, and I just saw him at the NAMM Jam last. It's been a year now since I talked to him. Just do some social interaction every now and then on Facebook and stuff. But yeah, it's just it's one of those. They're sort of meant for each other, but they know the roles, right, for each other on some level.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. But you know Jerry pretty well, right?
Not really well, but throughout the years, we've had our talks and stuff, and so I would call him a friend, but we're not close. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah. He's a very soft-spoken man. He doesn't say too much about, I'm sure he's got his opinions about stuff, but,
Ooh, I just thought of something. All right, speaking of bass players, two of my favorite bass players, two good friends of mine, together at a show in Tucson, if you remember, F5 with David Ellefson and you guys. And that was back when Vinny was on the drums.
Oh yeah,
And I believe at that time it was Andrew. Yeah, it was Andrew on vocals. So Jerry got in a big fight. I don't know if you knew this or not, but a big argument with Steve Conley, guitar player for F5, one of the guitar players, and it almost came to fisticuffs, as far as I know. I don't know if you heard of any of that, but you might not have been there because it was like during gear load-in and stuff like that. Something came up, and they got in a big argument, and it got pretty heated. I was not there because guess where we were at? The gym.
I would have guessed a bar, but Jim would have been a close second.
Well, we hit, if you remember, right around the corner, it's no longer there. There's a place called Chewy's, a really cool mesquite broiler place. We hit the gym and we ate. I think we ate first and then hit the gym later. I don't remember, but we definitely hit the gym, bro. And anyway, I found out about that later. And the other thing that sucked about that night, if you remember, was I don't know why, but George waited till after midnight to play, to go on stage, and a lot of the crowd left because F5 had been done. I think it was literally over an hour after F5 played that you guys went on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember
that.
I
don't remember that part, but yeah, I mean, I do remember that. I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm trying to put the pieces together in my head right now on that era on what happened.
Right. It's funny how we all have our memories, right? It's like I can remember something and it will trigger something in your memory or vice versa. Like me thinking you played with Yngwie, but the fact is you were approached by Yngwie. I probably read that somewhere and then assumed I didn't do my show prep, but I got some good info out of you about it. But yeah, memory is a crazy thing, dude. And speaking of which, not to touch on it, just very lightly touch on the subject. My mom is early stage Alzheimer's, and dude, it's a trip to watch her. It's very sad. It can be funny. But yeah, memory is a crazy thing, dude.
Yeah, no, my dad, I went through that with my dad. Obviously, he was in a dementia home and everything, and that's just
wow.
It's
so
horrifying.
you know.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing, and I think we're all worried about that kind of stuff. It's like where did I put my car keys?
Right.
So but keeping young and heart and stuff is huge, I think, as far as that. But what I was going to touch on real quick is it's interesting because all these different situations, as far as if you look at it from an employment standpoint or a responsibility standpoint, is with George, obviously I was a hired gun, right? Basically. There's no ownership, as far as, of course you take ownership, but what I mean by that, it's not the same as when I was Lizzy Borden. I was part owner of Lizzy Borden, meaning you split merchandise, you split, very involved in all the decision making. I mean, Lizzy and I pretty much ran the business for many, many years as far as booking and all this stuff, right? Working with agents and promoters all over the world and stuff like that. And, anytime there would be any kind of dilemma going on as far as, crew interaction with different opening bands, just like you mentioned about Jerry and stuff like that, with Lizzy, you would be very involved you look at it from a business standpoint almost, you're co-owner of the business and you're very much involved in everything that's going on versus with the George Lynch situation, you're just sort of an employee there, which is totally fine. And to be honest with you, it was pretty damn amazing to go into that situation from being very involved with both Starwood and Lizzy on the ownership level to going into being, it's like, I will be in my bunk. I will make sure I know every single note and everything. I will be in tune and everything else, but I will be in my bunk. I don't need to worry about any dramas about, bands are not getting paid or, there's fights and this and this and that, right?
Yeah.
So it was very refreshing coming in, from that aspect, being with George as well, so, but, it's the same thing. Don't get me wrong. I do, like the challenge of, we do classical to rock concert and, the one we did in 2018, I basically had 300 people under me working, from technicians to stage builders to everything else. And being one of the producers out of two producers that show, is Utah and I only, and you had 300 people under me, and they're hitting me going, you're missing $1 million off your insurance, and we have a show tonight, stuff like that, or, there could be all kinds of fun stuff like that, and you're going, holy crap, or the stage builders are not showing up on time, and you know what I mean? Like, so I do appreciate the other side of this as well. It's not just, being lazy here, coming in as a hired gun, but it is kind of a nice situation.
Well, all right. So, yeah, you have one responsibility pretty much. You're an employee, do your job and do it well, and that's exactly what you did.
Exactly.
So,
thank you.
I saw it firsthand, so I can say that. So I'm looking on YouTube right now. You do have From Classical to Rock as a channel. I just subscribed to it, so I'm going to have to check out some of these YouTube videos. And then really quick, I really think you should do a Marten Andersson solo album. So many great musicians out there that you could get to guest on it. I know some people don't like the idea of that. Some musicians, they just want to, they don't want to do that. But I think that would be really cool if you, and really expand on the style of playing that you have. I think you could make something really freaking cool out of that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I have a lot of songs written and stuff, and to be honest with you, it's not so much about wanting to make a shred record and this and this and that. Sure, this will be some shred on there too, but it's more about showing off, songwriting capabilities and just make some really cool songs for people to enjoy. It's just like, to be honest with you, most people don't enjoy, what I mean by that, most people, maybe not musicians, is, 400 notes, bass solos and things like that. It's great. I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Billy, what he's doing, and, but, just in general, it's just, I'd like to have make some really good songs for people to enjoy,
Well, I think if you do it right, you can add in the shred factor here and there and show off a little bit, but yet have a cohesive project or a cohesive piece all put together that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I think you can absolutely pull that off.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of, at least mentally, it's sort of in the works on how I see it. And I do have a lot of songs written and stuff. So it's just a matter of pulling the trigger, not pulling the plug, pulling the trigger.
Don't pull the plug.
Pulling the trigger and just kind of go with it and see what happens,
Oh, dude, well, it's too late now. I already started it, but pull the plug. I was going to talk about Swedish porn again, but never mind.
Hey, you said that.
Never
I did
mind.
not say that.
Wait, what? That wasn't me, I swear. What else do you want to mention, man? Because I think we covered pretty much everything in your career, and some good times, and bringing up some memories and stuff. What else would you like to mention? And of course, pimp your website and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically there's so many different websites, but you can find all the outlets through these websites. Obviously, from classicaltorock.com is one. Obviously, steelheart.com. Any kind of tour dates or anything like that. My personal website is marten.cc, which is marten.cc, no .com or anything like that. And that's where you can go to find all my social, Instagrams and, not to sit here and just ramble up a bunch, because there's so much. But, those are three of the main sites that I can recommend people go. And, I have a mailing list too on my website and stuff like that. And just keep in touch, that's pretty much it. And, next up will be some, Steelheart songs and Steelheart show. It's not songs. And also, hopefully we'll do some more classical to rock stuff in the States, which is amazing. But it's such a big production that it's not an easy thing to pull off,
I could imagine. But getting all those people together and make it work. Yeah, logistically speaking. Yeah,
it's a lot of work, and basically Utah and I are the only ones that are sort of on staff on a regular basis to do that, and so but we will do some more of those too as well. But also make sure you check out the Steelheart website for upcoming tour dates. A lot of the dates are obviously being rescheduled right now and changed around. We were supposed to do the M3 festival on May 1st. Obviously, that was one of the first things to go, and a bunch of other stuff that's being sort of, changed around, and hopefully we can get back to business again in the not foreseeable future,
Yeah, who knows how long this is all going to go on, but hopefully we can get you at least to either Phoenix or Tucson or both, because we had talked about that Vegas date, working something around that. That's July. Who knows what's going to happen, but, I'll do anything I can to get you guys here.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I mean, just feel free to reach out off air, and then I'll make sure we'll discuss it and figure it out, and that'd be great. Love to, love to make it happen. And I know Texas is our next show, and it's in June 15th, and they're actually talking about doing the show because they're reopening Texas. But so we'll see if that's going to be the first show or not. But it's like you said, it's all who knows what will happen.
Well, you are my Banff bass bro. You know what Banff stands for, right? BAMF?
No, tell me.
Badass motherfucker.
I had a feeling that's what it was, but well, thank you, man. It's been a pleasure to be on the show finally, and it's, we've known each other for a long time, and
what the hell was I thinking?
And hopefully next time I get on here, I'll have a solo record to promote or something.
Yes, that'd be fantastic. But thank you for your friendship. You've been an awesome guy. We've at least stayed in touch throughout all these years. We really have. I mean, I think there was a little bit there where we kind of lost touch, but then, you just bounce right back into it. And here we are. So thank you for taking the time to gab incessantly with me.
Anytime, man. I'm glad there's no Jaeger involved here, because then the real stories will come up. But, it's all good, brother.
That's for the next one. This was the warm-up.
All right, my brother. It's good chatting with you, man.